Happy Monday, guys. Happy St. Patrick's Day. This is Puck Time for Monday, March 17th on WagerTalk TV. Andrew McGinnis and Carmine Bianco with you to break down 3 games here on the NHL slate. Look at some props as well, sides, totals, and discuss the league as a whole as the playoff races get tighter and tighter every single day. And Carm, how about those Habs with the win over the Panthers on the weekend? Just 1 point out of the playoff spot. I know they aren't playing today, but I have to express my excitement. That race is getting incredible. Rangers, Blue Jackets, Habs, hell, the Red Wings are still in the mix a little bit. It's been great. And of course, the top of that division with the Panthers and Leafs. I mean, the Leafs are they going to finish third in the division? I don't know what the deal is with that team, but they haven't won a game, it feels like, in 3 weeks. So it's crazy. Mikko Rantanen against his former team yesterday. That was a wild game. It was a busy weekend of hockey, man.
It doesn't matter, Andrew. I have already decided who's going to make it into the Stanley Cup Finals. I told you that before the show, you and Dan. I'll hold off on making that prediction live here because it's only Monday and I don't want people jumping on me already on Monday. But 7-1 NHL run. So things are heating up in the NHL. After dropping that 5, it has been winners. So that's been great. The 6-60 went 5-1. I'll announce a name on tomorrow's show of the people who picked 5-1. I'll choose one of them, and you'll get some Puck Time swag. But yeah, Andrew, the playoff races are there. You know, the one advantage a team like the Ottawa and the Rangers are going to have, who have the final 2 spots right now, is those regulation wins. 27 for Ottawa, 30 regulation wins for the New York Rangers. And then you look at Montreal, Columbus, Detroit, and the New York Islanders, who are all right there, and they got 23 and 24. So they've got to up those regulation wins while picking up those points. But kudos to you. Your team is right in the smack of things. Columbus has dropped off a bit, and we're going to talk about them first. Columbus and New Jersey. We'll follow up with the Leafs and Calgary in our Canadian matchup, and then your props playlist, and we will finish it off with the LA Kings in the Minnesota take on the Wild. A couple show plays, and hopefully some actionable info and winners along the way, Andrew. You're pumped. I can tell you're pumped, man. You're on a great run as well, too, in the NHL, 8-2, I believe so. And today is, I think, the last day to take advantage of that St. Patty's Day deal and get 17% off. So head over to WagerTalk and use it for like a 3 or 7 day package and get the next week. Andrew, New Jersey minus 135, opened at 130, Columbus plus 115. I know where I'm leaning here, but I need to hear from you first on this one. Where are you going on this one? Are you buying into the Devils are playing better and Columbus is tailing off?
You know, Carm, I mean, this Jackets team has not looked like themselves. To get shut out in back-to-back games and to get shut out by the exact same score is something completely different. Excuse me, I'm battling here, guys. Tough when you can only breathe through your mouth. You can't breathe through your nose right now. Yeah, but I mean, Golden Knights beat them 4-0 on Thursday. And then, of course, on Saturday, it was a huge game for them against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They lose that one. Against the Rangers. They lose that one 4-0. It's just not going well for them right now. And they just have lost their scoring production. You look back in the last time they played against the Rangers, they put up 7 goals. You got a hat trick from Fantilli. You got all kinds of great players playing well. But when it ultimately comes down to it, Carm, I'm seeing the offense just dry up for this team. That's what I'm seeing right now. I mean, whether it's the goaltending, whether it's defense, whatever it might be, it just seems like things are just drying up for them on the offensive side of things. As far as the Devils are concerned, Carm, we kind of have to ask ourselves, are they one of those teams that we can say have value because people have kind of written them off a little bit? It just seems to me like people have said to this team, you know what, they're without this player, they're without that player. Jack Hughes, huge part of their offense. The fact is, you're going to have a Columbus Blue Jackets team very motivated here in this spot, right? They had been outscored 8-0 in their last 2 games. But here's the caveat here. The Penguins destroyed the Devils on the weekend. So it's not going to be just one team that's extra motivated. You're going to have both teams motivated in different directions. Obviously, we saw the Devils win 3 straight games prior to that blowout loss against the Penguins. Came in feeling pretty good about themselves. I'm not really sure what the Penguins are doing right now, Carm, because they're like walking their way out of a good draft pick is what they seem to be doing, this Penguins team. But you know what? People always say that, we always say you must win doesn't mean will win. I keep talking about that with the Blue Jackets and the Wings and the Habs, some of these teams. I got to rock with the New Jersey Devils here, but I lean towards the under as well. When you've got a team like the Columbus Blue Jackets that got outscored 8-0 their last 2 games, their offense couldn't be found with a telescope. And then you got teams, a team like the Devils that are coming off a game where they gave up 7 goals. It wouldn't shock me to see kind of a game like this have, a defensive start, a low scoring start. Like I'm seeing plus 100 for under 1.5 goals first period. I know I used to look at that over in the first period after a team was shut out, but you got to think defense is on the mind for both teams. So I'm throwing a lot at you. I look towards kind of a defensive game. And I'm also looking towards this Devils team here. Until I see it, I don't believe it from Columbus.
Andrew, I talked about Columbus winning that game 7-3 in New York against the Rangers, and I thought it was just an anomaly. That's a game you draw a line through because those two are going to meet numerous times, and you're not going to see Columbus come ahead 7-3 against the New York Rangers, even when they're not at their best. They're still a good defensive team. It's Columbus was such a moneymaker for most of the season with their totals, especially at home and their overs. But you look at some of their games; they've been shut out in 3 of their last 5 games. They've been shut out. Again, you draw a line through that 7-3 win, which I'm apt to do here, and it's 5 straight losses for them. While scoring a total of 5 goals across those 5 losses. You look at them, their last 10 games at home, they're 3-6-1 to the under. You look at a team like New Jersey, who's been a moneymaker all year as far as the over-under goes. New Jersey, 39-25-2 on the season to the under. And first period unders on the road for New Jersey. You talked about the under 1.5, 24-11. First period unders on the road for New Jersey, plus 14.5 units, which is the number 1 team for unders on the road in the first period. So those are some numbers. I'm taking the full game because it's at 6. Could very well land on it, but I like this game to stay under the total, Andrew. With that said, another game with a 6 total and 2 completely different teams. The all-Canadian battle, Calgary versus Toronto, Andrew. Leafs opened up minus 220. It's held firm. Plus 180 is the take back on the Flames. Totals at 6 here. Where are you going?
Well, I think, Carm, right now, like any bet on the Maple Leafs is kind of it's like a wish bet. It's like, it's a bet to think they're going to turn things around, to think that they're going to be a different team than they have been over the last couple of weeks here. A lot of times in sports, you talk about kind of throwing a puck at the net from a bad angle. You talk about, throwing a bad shot up in basketball when it might not be a good look. It kind of feels like that's what you'd be doing right now if you're taking the Maple Leafs tonight, because there's really hard to find any statistics or data to back up why you'd like the Maple Leafs tonight, other than the fact that maybe they need to play another team that they, first of all, don't see very much, but they feel like they're a class ahead of. They feel like they're better than, and they can get that fresh start. Because the Battle of Ontario, the rivalry game on Saturday night, Carm, the only real goal they scored, this Leafs team, was when Allmark passed the puck to Matthews and gave him an open net. Other than that, the Leafs aren't scoring. We just talked about the Blue Jackets not scoring. But I'll tell you what, I mean, when you look at some of these guys that they traded for, like Scott Lawton and then Brandon Carlo on defense. I'm happy that Carlo has term on his deal, but it has not been a good stretch for Lawton, who pretty much the only thing he's done so far has been in a really crappy fight for the team. But, this kind of brings me back to the playoff struggles for the Leafs over the past few years, because we ask ourselves this, Carm, and I'm curious, and I'm curious if people will comment or talk in the live chat. Is the biggest problem with the Maple Leafs right now their goal scoring or their defense? That's the big question from where I'm sitting. Is the big question, because in the playoffs last year, it wasn't even their defense. Everyone talks about defense and goaltending. They only were scoring 1 or 2 goals a game in those playoff games. They played against the Panthers on Thursday, and they scored 2 goals. They played against the up-and-coming Senators on Saturday night, and they only scored 2 goals. So those are 2 rivalry potential playoff games, and they put just 2 goals on the board. I understand this Flames team, they only scored 1 goal in their win against the Habs, right? They lose 4-3 to the Canucks. They lose 4-2 to the Avalanche. So it hasn't been looking great for them either. But, Carm, I never make these plays. I'm kind of like against making, the laying the juice here with these type of plays. But I'm going to consider looking at the +1.5 for the Flames comboed with the +180. So a +1 line here on the Flames. And I do think this is if you do like the Flames in any way, you probably want to look towards the team total, because I feel like that -115 could be kind of my trifecta here. Money line, +1.5, and team total over 2.5 goals. Think it was last Monday, I had a 5% play on the Leafs against Utah, and they got the job done. But they were up 3-0, Carm, and the game ended 4-3 because of a shootout. I don't trust this Leafs team right now. And at this point, the Flames are the side that I want to take to at least keep the game close. What do you think?
Well, Montreal fans in general never trust the Toronto Maple Leaf fans or the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, Andrew. But I think ultimately this is a game. The Leafs have dropped 5 or 6 games. They lost 3 straight at home. They haven't lost this season 4 straight at home. So I would think, and not based on that, I think the Leafs get the win here. Do I want to lay 220 on this? No, I don't. I would probably look at different ways of playing it, maybe split some units between the Leafs and the puck line. The one thing I wouldn't take, Andrew, is the first period on the Leafs. This is one of those ones where, I talked about it in that game, Dallas and Winnipeg. You can get goals in the first period and hit that first period over, and then still have the game stay under. And that game finished 4-1 after a couple of goals in the first period to send that one over. The same thought process here is the Leafs could trail after 1 and still come back and win this game because they're at home. And it's something that they've done all season long, it seems. They are 12, 14, and 8, minus 8.75 units in the first period money line on them. You look at the Flames, their last 10 games away from home, 5, 2, and 3. They've only trailed in 2 games, 2 of the last 10 games on the road. They're getting off to good starts. Flames first period. Andrew, I think there is, I know they have it in soccer. Is there a team to come from behind and win where you allow the first goal and you win the game? DraftKings probably has that. I'm going to guess, to win from behind on the Leafs. I could completely see that happening tonight. Leafs fall behind early against Calgary, comes back and wins.
You know what, Carm? Weirdly enough, I've mostly just seen that during the playoffs, which sounds funny to see more props during the playoffs. But we'll take a look around for that. We'll take a look around to see. But
I'm gonna have a
that's
look
the
while
thing. I think it's important though, because like you said, like that first period is going to be so important for this Leafs team. The motivation is going to be there. The star players haven't been up to their, what they're capable of and kind of what they usually do here. But the fact is like the Flames, they were able to kind of hang around against the Avalanche. Like I'll be the first one to say it. Like I think that Dustin Wolf sometimes carries the Flames. Like without him, there's a lot of grade A chances being taken every single time he starts, and he's able to be there. Like I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, and I think I want Lane Hudson to win the Calder Trophy. Macklin Celebrani's up there for the San Jose Sharks, but at this point, what would it take for a goalie to win the Calder Trophy? Because would it just have to be like really bad
30
forwards? Like,
wins.
yeah, that's the thing. Maybe it's because he didn't play as much at the start of the season, and then the teams. But
Yeah.
how is it his fault the team isn't very good? It's not his fault. They're winning games
Yeah.
1-0 and 2-1.
But
It's like it.
but I believe if they get 30 if he gets 30 wins, which is a hard, it's still pretty hard from this point out. Trying to find even another 8 or 9 Flames wins to close out the season. He has to win each and every one of those 30 wins, and they eke into the playoffs, and maybe he gets it. By the way, plus 255 at DK, Leafs to
Cool.
win from behind. So that basically means if Calgary scores first and the Leafs win the game, plus 255 for a team that's minus 220. You just have to hope that Calgary scores first. Calgary, by the way, is plus 350 to fall behind and come back and win. So some nice prices on those ones. And no, you can't take both and lock in a profit because you need one of the teams to come from behind. If the Leafs lead wire to wire, you lose both bets. So with that said, Andrew, props playlist, man. You have some winners for us.
Yeah, Carm, we're going to try something new today. It's going to be kind of a quick segment. Before I get to it, I'll just mention again, as you talked about at the start of the show, the last day for that PAT17 promo code, guys. I understand it's March Madness time. Everyone's pumped up about college basketball. But if you want to join me on any of my hockey packages or anything that I'm offering over at WagerTalk, PAT17 will take 17% off any package of your choice, 7-day, 30-day, or the remainder of the full season, of course, over at WagerTalk. And we're doing well. 8-2 run in the NHL. You know it's good when you lose one play yesterday and you're really, really pissed about it. It's a good feeling to lose one play and not be happy. Long-term, 72% run with the 5% plays. So we're feeling pretty good right now. But, guys, kind of an interesting one here. We're going to do a parlay with 2 players to get a point. And these are the kind of bets that I make sometimes at home when I'm betting on games myself. So I figured I would share it with you. And this isn't going to work every day. We're not going to be able to do this type of stuff all the time. But this is the kind of stuff you can do, whether you're betting on certain fantasy apps or you're betting just on certain sports books or whatever it might be. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at William Nylander from the Maple Leafs to get a point. And we're going to take a look at Brandon Hagel from the Tampa Bay Lightning to get a point. Taking a look at William Nylander, guys, his last few games against Calgary, the last time he played against Calgary, he had a hat trick. He had 3 goals. The game before that against Calgary, he had 2 assists. The game before that, he had 2 goals and 1 assist. The game before that, he had an assist. The game before that one, he had 2 goals, 3 assists, and 5 points. William Nylander plays very well against the Calgary Flames. And as Carm mentioned a few moments ago on PuckTime, 5 of the last 6 games has not gone well for the Maple Leafs. They need Nylander to be at his best. Now, Brandon Hagel, he has a point in 6 straight games against Philadelphia, in 6 of his last 8 games at home, and 12 of his last 15 games played overall. So we're taking 2 hefty favorites on their own teams, 2 different games, just to record 1 point, guys, at plus 128 at DraftKings. I love this play, guys. With these type of plays, you want to keep it simple. You don't want to get it too complicated. You don't want to have a bunch of legs on it. But 2 guys, I expect to have a good night tonight. Kind of a unique version of the prop segment here today, Carm. Nylander and Hagel to both get a point, plus 128. Oh, I can't hear you, Carm.
You probably don't hear me because I'm muted. That's probably why you didn't hear me. But Nobody wanted to hear the bird during your props playlist. But with Andrew, with that said, any two-teamer that gives you plus money, I think is or two-player one, two-prop one, is I think is always a good bet, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. 200,000 subscribers, I think we're in around. So let's keep going. Let's get to that 1 million at some point. Andrew will shave his head once we get to 1 million subscribers. As will Dan, our producer. We will be the three nut combo. Andrew, LA Kings, Minnesota Wild. Kings minus 145. They opened up minus 140, so a little bit of money on them. The Wild plus 125 at home. How you playing this one?
It's kind of weird, Carm, because I think it was on Saturday when it was announced that Binnington wasn't starting and it was Hoffer starting for the Blues against the Wild. I was like, oh man, like 100% this Wild team's going to win. Like, it's not like Hoffer has bad numbers, but at this point, I'm pretty much only going to want to take a look at St. Louis if Binnington's in net. And then I don't know what the hell happened, but the Blues beat the brakes off the Wild and they win that one 5-1. So kind of interesting right now looking at this Wild team as we keep on talking about today on the show, I guess. A bunch of teams struggling to find their offenses. Wild, 1 goal against the Blues, 2 goals against the Rangers, 2 goals against the Avalanche, 1 goal against the Pittsburgh Penguins, 1 goal against the Vancouver Canucks. Where the hell is this team's offense? I mean, they've got one player that's very key that's still out and injured, and that's Kirill Kaprizov. But at the end of the day, when a team is looking to find their offense, Carm, there's probably one team and one team only that you don't want them to play. And that team is the LA Kings. I mean, this team knows how to shut it down. They know how to play defensive hockey. They know how to break you down. I want the LA Kings here tonight, but I do think this game's going to be a desperate and kind of sloppy game. This one's going to be one of those ones that we could see goals early on. But overall, I just simply do not trust this team at all right now, this Wild team. I'm going to go with a rare regulation play here, Carm. Take the LA Kings to win this one in regulation. Usually I take those team totals. You can get even money on regulation for the Kings. This is not a spot for the Wild to bounce back. Because even if this is kind of a sloppy game, even this is kind of a game that we see some goals, I think the LA Kings have the edge right now. And when guys like Byfield are playing well right now, Trevor Moore, some of the guys kind of down the lineup, think about how good that looks for the top players, right? It's making life a lot easier for the LA Kings. So this is kind of a if it ain't broke, don't fix it play. We'll see what happens. We'll see if the Wild bounce out of it. We know they're a good home team, but Carm, we also know that over the years, the Kings have not been any slouches either on the road. So I lean towards this regulation play on the Kings. I just don't see this being an upset spot for the Wild, but I'm curious if you think it could be. What are your thoughts here on the Wild? They have been a good bounce back team in years past.
Have I just think the injuries that they had kind of stuck them in a hole. They keep rejigging their lines. It doesn't seem to be working for them, and that's why we see them at plus 125 at home. The Kings, rightfully so, should be favored in this game. 140 seemed like a high line, so 145 does seem a little bit worse. I don't think there's enough money that can come in on the Kings that would make me jump ship and take the Minnesota Wild here. The one thing about the Kings, and you got to give them credit. This has to be. I talk about having a roller coaster hockey season. Look at the roller coaster that is the LA Kings. They lose 4 straight games and they win 5 out of 6. Lose one game in one of those games in OT. They lose 5 straight games and now they've reeled off 5 straight wins. This team, man, you can't do that in the playoffs. You have to be obviously more consistent, but the first thing is to get into the playoffs for this Kings team. And I think they keep playing the way they're playing. They're definitely in it. I'm leaning the under here, Andrew. It's 5.5. It's juiced to the under, and for a reason. But Minnesota profitable at home to unders, 19-12-1 on the season at home with their unders. And the Kings have been profitable on the road, 19-13-1 to the under at home. On the road. So I'm going to lean under 5.5 here. Throw some pizza money on the LA Kings to win exactly 4-1. That pays 11-1. That means you'll be having 11 slices or 12 slices instead of one. What do you think,
I
Andrew?
like it.
Some
I
pizza
like it.
dough?
And
Who doesn't
the
like
thing
a
is,
good pizza
Carmen,
bet?
they can't play they can't play offense right now. This team's not scoring the Wild, so they have no choice but to play a low scoring game. And if anybody wants to challenge the LA Kings to a low scoring game, best of luck to you. Right? I mean, it's like challenging the Avalanche to a first to 5 goals wins. You know you're going to lose that battle. So
It's
it has underwritten all over it. I think a low scoring Kings
it's
victory is in store for us.
yeah, absolutely. Come on, how many times this season? Because it's a handful or even less. Has there even been a scoreless game heading to overtime? It is unbelievable. That is an under, Andrew, that you'll never have to sweat. I just could not understand. I'm like, wow, this game is actually going to go to OT scoreless, and it did. It was part of the 6 and 68 one, so I'm happy there with that one. But Andrew, another thing I want to throw at you because we've given our opinions on this game. The Vancouver Canucks. Okay, so I had Utah yesterday for my clients, and they get the win. How is Vancouver going to sustain a run to the playoffs, getting the shot totals that they're getting? Like they're just not getting pucks. It's like 12 minutes into the second period and they have 4 shots on goal, albeit they have a goal. You look at their shot totals, and these are shots for the last few games 19 yesterday in a loss, 15 the game before that. Then a couple of 31s against the Canadians and the Flames, but then 23-20. This is a team, and we saw them do this last year, Andrew, in the playoffs, where their games, like we should just, if there's anything to be taken advantage of with these low shot counts with Vancouver is player shot props under. Like,
Mm.
have you even looked into that? Like, I'm curious. I haven't done a lot of them, but when you're only getting 15 shots on goal, it's very tough for one guy who's like, let's say Elias Pettersson, who's at 3.5 to actually get 25% of the shots on goal in that game.
Yeah, it's hard to take up that big of a percentage if there's 20 some skaters on the ice or on the team. So good point there. And yeah, that's the thing is that that's why to me when I do my props, sure I'll talk about how recency has helped a player with their props. Recency. Look at 5 of the last 6 games, whatever. But if you notice today when I talked about those 2 players, Hagel and who else was my guy? When I talk about the players that I looked at for the prop segment, I think it's really important to look at the opponent ranking, how an opponent looks towards against their certain team. And Nylander was my other guy. I was forgetting, and he did so well against the Flames. Some teams give up certain amount of shots. Some teams give up a certain amount of chances. There's websites I look at, Carm, that they'll tell you how many shots on goal a left winger gets against this team, a defenseman gets against this team, which is really cool because one thing I've been looking at more lately is the defenseman over 1.5 shots on goal. Some teams give up more points, more shots from the point than others. So it kind of depends on all of their defensive schemes and everything like that. All right, last thing I'm going to throw back to you, Carm. And because I'm the fan on the show, I'm going to let you kind of give me your take on this. So that I've been obsessed with checking the odds to make the playoffs. And I'm still not feeling that good, of course, with the Habs, but it's been fun to follow. But I want to ask you this, because ever since I started bringing this up to you weeks ago, the same 2 teams were the big favorites to make the wild card, the Senators and the Rangers. And it would take it would take something happening, to the earth for the Ottawa Senators to not make the playoffs at this point. I think they're like minus 3,000. So it's just competing for that second wild card spot, right? So here's the thing. I was thinking to myself, I kind of want to take the Rangers to miss the playoffs. And then I said to myself, why would you do that at minus one, like 50, when you could just pick one of the teams you think might make it in their place? So the Habs are plus 300. You've got the Red Wings plus 700, and the Blue Jackets are plus 350. So if you take two of those teams, Carm, and one of them gets in, you make money. You just can't, you can't take three and go 1 for 3 probably. And you got to hope that the Rangers, of course, miss. But how would you approach that right now? Because right now the Rangers are the chalk. They lost yesterday to Edmonton. They have one more game played, I believe, than Columbus and the Habs. How would you look at it right now?
It's tough, Andrew. The first thing I'm going to always do is look at a team's schedule the rest of the way out. I don't think you can look at anything playoff related without looking at a team schedule. So I'm just trying to bring up. I was trying to bring it up, but the logjam that we have. Like you as a Montreal fan must be looking at what Montreal has left the rest of the way, and do they have a chance to get into the playoffs? When I a couple weeks back when I said in our group chat about Detroit and letting Johnny know this is what the average team is going to, what's the team's going to have average 1.18 points the rest of the way. The Red Wings have to average just a little higher in order to make the playoffs. Well, they're not doing that, but the teams in front of them are crawling, Andrew, right now. You look at it, the Columbus Blue Jackets, for the last 5 they've lost. You look at the Montreal Canadiens, they've lost 3 of their last 5, although they did pick up a couple single points in 2 of those losses. The Rangers, losers of 3 of their last 5. These are teams that are battling for playoff spots. The Ottawa Senators are the one team that are playing exceptional hockey. So when you look at the Rangers, the one advantage they have right off the bat is, which I mentioned at the beginning of the show, is the fact that they have those 30 regulation wins. And those are huge come tiebreaker time. But you look at the Rangers, and they've got the Calgary Flames up next, which is tomorrow on the second of a back-to-back, because they're in Toronto tonight, so favorable for them. Then they get the Leafs a couple days after that, Vancouver, LA Kings, Anaheim Ducks, San Jose Sharks. Those are the ones that you need to win. Minnesota Wild, who they just beat. They have a favorable schedule. It's the end of their schedule that is tough. Because we know they end up in Florida and they have to play Florida and Tampa, and those two teams are battling for top 3 spots in the Atlantic. That's a tough one. The Carolina Hurricanes, also another tough one. The New York Islanders, a team that is probably in the playoff hunt with them, Andrew. Their last 5 games are all meaningful games, so you have to stockpile the points. And when you go 3-5, your last 5, you're not really stockpiling points. We'll see what they do the rest of the way. Does any of what I said make any sense?
It does. And all I heard in my head was they have to beat the Senators tomorrow. The Habs, the Habitants are playing the Sens, and that's a big interdivisional game. But you are right. Those regulation wins matter. The schedule coming up matters. And I mean, let's be honest here, Carmen. There's a reason why the Rangers have the odds that they have, and there's a reason why the other teams, the Habs and Senators both have the 2 best records in the NHL after the 4 nations. But as you mentioned, they've lost a handful of games. They went out and they got lucky with 1 point that I call them loser points. The loser points, like the overtime points, losing in overtime. You got a few loser points there. But yeah, it's all about the schedule. And I think that right now, if you're Columbus or if you're New York or you're Detroit even, when you're not playing, I'm sure those players are scoreboard watching, man. And they're saying, okay, I hope that team loses. I hope that team loses. Like yesterday, I was cheering for Edmonton team total for my client play, but I was also cheering for them because I wanted them to beat the Rangers. And unfortunately, they won, but didn't get me that 4 goals that I was looking for. But, Carmen, it's a decent slate today. I don't love the board today. I really do like some games on Tuesday's board. But you and I actually both have best bets in the first period today, it seems like.
Yeah, so 2 plays up for me in the NHL tonight. 2-0 sweep yesterday, 7-1 run. So we're going to try and keep that going because I do like the slate tomorrow. So I'd love to go into the slate on a 9-1 run. No soccer plays for the first 3 days of this week. It's the European break, international break, and then some Nations League games, including the quarterfinals and semifinals of that. I'll have some plays on those, but that's beginning on Thursday. As far as a show best bet, Andrew, I'm going to go to the first period of the Sabres Bruins game and take the over 1.5 minus 125. You look at the last 10 games as far as the home and away splits for these teams. Sabres 7-3 to the first period over their last 10 away from home. The Bruins 7-3 at home in the first period there to the over their last 10 games. And the Sabres are just playing the spoiler role. They want to go in. They want to try and beat anyone who has a slight chance at making the playoffs and just play well. They got a good win against their former star Jack Eichel and the Vegas Golden Knights, winning that game. So we'll see if they can build off of that first period pond hockey. Hopefully. Over to you, Andrew, for your play and close it out.
I like it, Carm. Let's get it combined at least 4 goals in these games here. I'm going to go with the first period over in the Tampa and Philly game. And when I look at this game here, this is one of those spots where it's the rapid revenge. It's a team that just played the same team just a couple of days ago, and the Flyers got the job done in a shootout, winning that one 4-3. So the Lightning are going to be motivated. They're going to want to get right back on track. They're going to want to beat the team that beat them just last Thursday. But also, right after that victory in a shootout over the Lightning, the Flyers got their butts kicked 5-0 against the Hurricanes. Not to mention, Carm, the Hurricanes are 3-0 since Rantanen got traded. That distraction is away from the locker room now. But Hurricanes 5-0 win over the Flyers. So Flyers will be motivated to bounce out of that game after they got shut out. I look for motivation on both sides. Over 1.5 goals in the first period. Should be an action-packed one. And also, guys, let's cash these prop bets that we gave out as well with Hagel and Nylander, both those guys at plus 128. And Pat 17, good for Carmine, good for myself, guys. Take 17% off. Doesn't have to be a long term. Could be 3-day, could be 7-day, whatever it might be. But we are dialed in right now, the PuckTime crew with the NHL. Guys, I know it's March Madness time. Bet responsibly, enjoy the gains, but we're going to build your bankrolls with the NHL. All right, let's have some fun this week. Let's cash some tickets. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a great slate of games on Tuesday right here on PuckTime.